All right. Well, here we are again. Hopefully, we'll get through this. Got a few bugs working on connection issues, but we'll make it happen. So we're back on together. How have things been for you?
And the red eyes from California.
Not because of California cannabis, though, right?
Nah.
Okay.
I did. There is some interesting CBD water that I did buy out there that it allowed me to sleep very well in the flight.
So you didn't get to try the CBD wine that we talked about, though,
Nah,
being out in California.
I couldn't find it.
I think that was all private from what we saw. But CBD water I've heard of. I've heard it's really good. I haven't tried myself.
Very flavorful. Very flavorful. From a company straight out of Denver. So the company that distributes is out of Denver. Did not bring the can in with me, but I'll bring it for the next show so everyone will be able to see.
So that's something we need to look into. How much distributes across the nation? Where is it allowed? Where is it not allowed? Because we've got different regulations when it comes to the CBD products and those general terms. So I'm not sure what can be done, what isn't. As we know, as a whole, it's pretty much allowed. So
right. Yep.
We'll have to see.
Hey. Good morning.
Oh yeah.
Good.
All
right.
See you later.
Okay.
So yeah, that's something we'll definitely have to look into. But there's a few things we kind of some of the notes we had set up for what we'd hope for a guest with actually CBD drinks. Try to get him on again next week for whatever reason. All right. Okay, looks like we've got it back in now. All right, so we'll go to a couple of states real quick before I get to the big thing that I really want your take on it, because this was extremely interesting, and I don't think I passed it on to you.
Okay.
So I don't think we talked about it. But Minnesota, we'll start there.
Okay.
Not unexpected, but noteworthy. The governor signed an adult use legalization bill, and it's now the 23rd state to legalize. So we're almost at half, in some regards at least. And it's also the first state in upper Midwest to allow adult use. So the lawmakers in the neighboring states are going to use it as the example. But notice here, the neighboring states notice the tax revenue crossing the border. So maybe they'll start seeing these tax dollars and they'll want to jump on and extend to make 24, 25, 26 states and so on and so forth. But the sales aren't going to begin immediately. Dispensaries are likely to open in late 2024, 2025. So it's going to take a little while. We got some time. Where does that leave the state's legal marijuana now party and looking for a mission border for legalizations in the other states? That's going to kind of be the question mark.
Yeah, the tough one in the neighboring states to Minnesota is your North and South Dakotas, which
we've seen the problem in North Dakota. Even though they've had a big opiate problem, they've been real hesitant.
Absolutely. On the east side, you have your Wisconsin and your Illinois, which Illinois is open to it totally. Wisconsin, I think, still has some restrictions. And then south of it, it's not Indiana. It's good Lord.
We got Illinois real close by.
Yeah, now south of Minnesota
right.
is it's not Indiana. It's Iowa, I think.
Possibly, I can't picture my states, but that sounds about right because you got Ohio State and Michigan, big rivals. Yeah. So they're right in there.
Yeah, Michigan is far right. It's to the right of Illinois on the other side of the Great Lake. So yeah, it would be Iowa. That's south of Minnesota.
So now you said Illinois, which I guess we'll go ahead and hit that since you brought it up. But the Illinois legislature passed a bill that would allow cannabis business for tax deductions. So we talked about that on another state not long ago. This is illegal at the federal level, as we know, due to the Internal Revenue Code of Section 20 or 280E. So that's why this measure is part of a larger bill that's making its way to the governor's desk for signing.
There needs to be some incentive for the industry. And obviously a tax credit will allow business to flourish by not shelling out as much dollars to stay operational within that state. To get more businesses in there, you got to give them some type of incentive, and the tax credit is the perfect measure.
Well, not just the tax credit, but you're going to help make these businesses be established because we've talked about these mom and pops. They're not going to be able to compete against the Trulieve and the other big companies. Look at your coffees. Yeah, your local mom and pop coffees are not making it the way Starbucks and the others are. No. So they need incentive to survive, to keep them local.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you have a mom and pop store and you realize Georgia, for example, isn't going to give you the tax break, isn't going to support you, aren't you going to look at another state?
You can look at another state or look at another industry.
Right.
So it's not automatic on those terms, but what could happen is that you still lobby for legislation for support, get the structure in the industry that's needed so that way the industry itself can thrive. And then last but not least, the tax credits that goes toward helping the industry, there should also be grants available that will help the industry as well.
Well, it's interesting that you're talking about that because, for example, especially in the South, and you can speak more than I can, HBCUs are a lot in the South. Correct. And they are now getting grants for the research.
That's correct.
Which is fantastic news. But you would think that you would then want to create and make it more of availability in the South where you're going to have these grants for research. But we kind of seem to be battling and ramming heads on both ends.
We need help from the Fed. The Fed right now, until they take it off the Schedule 1 listing, we're still going to have an uphill challenge to get it to where it needs to be at. That way where business opportunity, educational opportunities are there. Of course, your retail, your distribution, your wholesale, those are other layers to, along with growing. Growing is also just as important. Industrializing it, and then of course the seeding process as well, and the distribution process of the seeds are all layers to this industry.
So now in New Hampshire, which did you know it's the second largest legislative body in the country after the Federal House of Representatives?
Really?
Yep. The little fact I learned this week, didn't know that. They're looking at a new retail model, and the discussion has now ceased, but they will take it up again this fall, and it could be available in 2024. So I don't know the full details on what that new retail model is, but anything that we could get, retail model, medical, anything would be a help and move forward.
Okay.
So that would always be a plus. But here's the news I wanted to get into that you may not know. Did you hear about the NCAA and cannabis?
Are they waiving the drug testing? Wonderful.
So that right there might help move forward in, reschedule and whatnot. But the meeting of the NCAA committee on competitive safeguards and the medical aspect of sports, the CSMAS, which I'd never heard of, but the committee expressed its support for removing cannabis from the list of banned substances, according to a statement by the NCAA in release.
I mean, they got to follow suit with the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball. They have all taken those off the list, and any intercollegiate should be following the same process. They're just below it.
Right, and we're going to get into some of what this means a little bit more, but how much do you think that could help in terms of rescheduling and changing the way it's looked at, because we're going to let these athletes have it for the medical reasons, the professionals, all of these things. How much can that push forward?
You got to look at the age group what we're looking at, and generally most collegiate athletes fall around the age of 17, 18. 18 is really the base, all the way up until 22, 23, possibly 24. So they are young adults at that point in time. The question is, we're not talking about high school, but high school definitely is below it. And I don't think that was something that will be changed or adopted in high school.
Now, I don't see that happening because, you go to whether it be your stores for CBD or the dispensaries or any of these discussions, and it says, even the website's 18 and over.
Right.
So I don't see where the high school will change that. At least in college, we're making a step, we're making a strive. But with the big business that college is, I'm hoping that will help move forth, not just the development, but the rescheduling and research and development.
I want to go back to a statement. I can't give the exact number, but 2 years ago, the NCAA made over $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2 years ago.
Right.
What did they make last year?
I almost double, probably.
Over $1 billion.
Right.
So when you think about college sports itself, the therapeutic remedies that are needed to keep those athletes at the highest level of their God-given abilities, they definitely need the therapy. They definitely need the rehabilitation that will help them get back safely, instead of using not necessarily opioids, but the Motrins and the Tylenols. They're definitely not as good. The cortisone shots definitely are not as good.
That's the spray. Can't remember what it's called, but the spray it puts on is the same idea. It's cortisone.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot of things that just needs to be revisited, so that way we can take our college athletes and they can go to a higher level. Some of them's careers won't be cut short by injury, because they'll be able to rehabilitate themselves in a way that is more therapeutic, but also more medicinal. I just don't look at the opiates as medicinal.
No, absolutely not. But let's think about this again for a minute and kind of what you're discussing. Look at the change in the last 5 years. And I don't mean in this industry. I'm talking college sports. One, you have the NILs now, which we know. We've expanded the playoffs for college, for football. But let's look at your streaming services. You can watch almost every single college baseball, basketball. All these games are accessible all over the place. Mm-hmm. It's a big business thing, and you want your people to be able to be healthy, be safe, to make that revenue.
Yes,
then push forward.
Of course, when you actually look at your professional athletes in today's time, their durability is a little bit more questionable than the athletes of a decade or 2 decades ago. So these athletes are doing what's called load management now.
In every sport, baseball too.
If you are a true fan of a sport and your favorite athlete, someone that motivates you, someone that inspires you when you watch them play and they're not available, it's no knock on the player because it's their body.
Right.
Of course, they're laying in on the line, and they shouldn't be subjected to any scrutiny if they're not able to perform. But if we can keep them in a position where they can perform and it does not impair or hurt their bodies, then I'm all for it. But you also got to think about them too and what you're subjecting them to. They want to be there. But I'm going to use the heart of Michael Jordan. If everybody had his heart, nobody probably would miss a game. But at the same time, when you're injured, you're injured. He did have a catastrophic injury one year where he almost missed the entire year and came back during the playoffs.
Well, that was the thing. I wasn't going to point out any particular guy because I don't want to sound like we're pointing fingers at anybody. Here we are, literally just across the street from where the Falcons play, where the Hawks play. And as a fan, we can go to a Hawks game and, okay, maybe a certain player is not playing for the Hawks. Okay, well, we got another chance to see them.
Okay.
But if these people are coming in once a year and we're wanting to buy a ticket to see them play, as a consumer, that kind of stinks that guy's not going to be able to be there. I understand why he's not doing it. I get that. But from the flip side of it, man, now this is that one time I'm spending my money. They're not even going to play. I feel let down.
The business of basketball has changed since LeBron James has been in the league. And I don't want to call him out.
Right, and that's why I wasn't saying the name. Perfect example,
but he aspires to be a champion. And he realized that you need good role players and good support players in place to win a championship. And the thing about it is, in the past, you used to develop a championship out of what you had.
Right.
Because
that was about the only way you were going to do it.
That's absolutely correct. So if you wasn't going to the basketball camps and working hard over the summer, working out, working on your agilities, your calisthenics, all of the things that would sharpen your skills to be a better ball player, even summer leagues, it's changed now. It's changed to a point of where, okay, this guy's not good enough, next guy. And it's not fair to the fans because the fans want to see a good quality product. But at the same time, when you grow with an organization, that's where fanfare comes at. You get the support from that.
Oh, absolutely. That's where, the people are wearing the jerseys for multiple years. They watched them develop from rookie to all-star to potential Hall of Famer. They feel included along that trip as well,
Absolutely.
Which the whole dynamic has changed now.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
Average players is changing teams every year to every 2 years now.
Right.
So it's, even with the great LeBron James, he's been with the Lakers now with 3 going on 4 years, but it's a possibility after this year. It's his last year.
Right. No, absolutely. And, that's the whole thing is not to sit here and go to the whole sports realm, but, I always hate the discussion of, is this the guy the best? Is he the greatest? Is he this? Is he that? Because, what you brought up earlier about that is, guess what? Basketball, football, these are all team sports. An individual can excel, but you want to compare championship to championship? It's a team. We're not talking boxing or golf, tennis, where it's a one-on-one thing. These are team aspects. And I hate the comparison of, well, this guy won 6 and this guy, he only won 4. Well, it's still a team.
Let's look at accolades, and what you do is you break them down in the categories. If you ask the question, who's the greatest champion? You can't say Michael Jordan because he only got 6.
Right.
You got Bill Russell.
Mm-hmm. Baseball, you got Yogi Berra.
Who is the greatest competitor?
Right.
So you can go by each team's sport, and you can actually ask a specific question, and you'll be able to get an answer. Sometimes you might have a debate, but that's the way how I would look at it. I would say that Michael Jordan is probably the greatest competitor and one of the greatest champions. LeBron, of course, himself is a champion. I can't take that away from him. He is a great competitor, but I wouldn't make him a greater competitor than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a two-way competitor, offensive and defensive. Don't get me wrong, LeBron has a tremendous resilience when it comes to making big plays. But day in, day out, night in, night out, he's not the guy. Michael Jordan would be number one in that category. He's the greatest competitor. When you talk about the greatest of all players, he still ranks up there as number one. But I do feel that with LeBron longevity and his durability,
And no college time.
the no college time definitely gave him points that Michael Jordan
Correct.
didn't have. If Michael Jordan could count the 3 years that he was at North Carolina and add those to the NBA, but then of course you need about 50 more games.
Correct. And he missed, what was it, almost 2.5 years out of his career too, because of the retirement injury. So
he retired twice.
right, correct.
He retired twice, and he played in college. So I truly feel that Michael Jordan, if he had went straight to the NBA, you just don't know where he would be at. Everybody's path to life is totally different. But if you can give him 3 years of NBA instead of college, and then if he did not retire those 2 years,
Right.
points wise, LeBron would be chasing
Oh, for sure.
Michael
Agreed.
Jordan. So, so when you look at things and along those lines, those are the things that possibly can happen. But you also got to look at Michael Jordan also. He took the mindset of becoming more physical as an athlete to avert injury.
Correct. And to be able to go up against the guys who are more physical defensively against him.
Absolutely. So when you think about preparation, some guys have a regimen now where they actually use CBD, the CBD oils that will help them recover. Just even the pain management.
Correct.
From injuries. I mean, whether they're ankle rollovers, second, third degree sprains, knee injuries, knee contusions, where you have a stretch or tear, a partial tear in your MCL, ACL. So those are things that are circumstances that, believe me, the pain management is tremendous, and you need something to give you the relief.
Oh, well, look at it. I mean, for example, basketball, you're falling on a hardwood floor. You're not falling on grass. Now, you get hit in football, that's still a heavy hit, even if you're going on grass.
Yes.
Hockey, you're falling on ice.
Mm-hmm.
All of that, pain management, like you're saying, all of that is an issue that people aren't looking at that could help these athletes to feel better and stay away from these steroids, but be back on the field faster.
I'm going to bring something up that's kind of in the relative area. When you're talking about even sports anchors, the mass majority of sports anchors were never athletes. So the scrutiny of the players is inaccurate.
Correct.
Totally inaccurate. You've never been there. You've never done that. So who are you to scrutinize an athlete, whether they're able to go, whether they're not able to go, even their durability? When you talk about one of the players like Anthony Davis, he's had a myriad of injuries. He's a big guy, very long, tall guy, but at the same time, that long length has issues in the hip joints, the knee joints, the elbow joints.
The player from, I can't think of his name right now, Japan. He played.
Yao Ming.
Yeah, Yao Ming. He didn't play nearly as long as people had thought because of those type injuries.
He had a bigger body frame, and then just because of the sheer size of him and his joint having to bear those weights, that's a level of degree of difficulty that's there. Same thing's going on with Zion Williams.
Right.
He's a very heavy frame young individual, very athletic, very energetic. The problem is that he is injury prone. For every explosive jump and every explosive landing that he has, his body has to bear that heavy weight on the landing. He can easily injure himself.
Well, think of it. As a center, you're sitting there, you're posting up against someone, and you're having to go from a stand position to a quick turn, explosive move to get past them. So your body's constantly moving it.
Absolutely.
A drop.
And he's always, I don't want to say always, but he has to keep his body control.
Yeah.
He has to definitely work on his body control as far as his game is concerned. I do agree that shaving 20, 25, 30 pounds off of his frame will help on his long-term durability. But at the same time, it may affect his game. But at the same time,
down in the box, it can affect his moves, his post.
But you should adapt and evolve.
Right.
I feel that a player of his magnitude, even if he dropped the weight, he would be more of a benefit to his long-term durability in the NBA if he dropped just a little bit of weight. I just truly believe that that weight has a certain wear and tear on the ligaments and tendons in the body, including the bursa joints, where the bursitis is, or not the bursitis, but anywhere where the shock absorber for the knee and for the elbow, that also, those explosive movements, those explosive landings create a tremendous amount of force in those areas to where you have this thing called bursitis. And bursitis, those liquid areas can swell up, the fluid in those joints, and they're very painful. Very, very painful.
So now, I don't have any testing data on this, but since we're talking about this, let's look at Tua down in Miami. Now, we know about the concussion and all, and he's taken jiu-jitsu and learned how to fall, that he's changed his body frame now. What's the possibility of this CBD helping, not trying to say from preventing any form of concussion, but could help him overall on the field of play because of the hits that he takes as a quarterback?
Only thing I say about that is more testing.
Right.
It calls for more testing. I can't speculate that whether using CBD or using THC would be a full therapeutic remedy for concussions. There'd have to be a vast amount of studies. That's something that I feel that the NFL has the applicable dollars to provide or do those type of researches. Right.
And I don't think that it's going to say that, hey, concussions now are fine, and here you go, just take this, you'll be good. But it could definitely help him from anything other than that. Hits to his shoulder, hits to his knees, the way he, lands by getting hit that way. Not saying the CT, which, hey, if it could help with concussions, that'd be phenomenal.
One thing I want to add to, last year we were talking about the grant that the NFL actually given out to one company. I think they were out of California. Let's definitely look at following up the research data that company is supposed to have provided. It's been over a year.
Yep, it has.
And I haven't particularly heard anything in particular.
No, we need to look at that.
So we definitely need to look at that. There may be a due diligence issue there as well. I think the NFL made that announcement, announced the company or whatever, and then it just went quiet.
Probably so. But yeah, it's something we need to look into for sure, because with the NCAA, they've gathered input from its memberships this summer, and a final action on the issue is expected this coming fall. Now, that's good, but at the same point, that probably means that it wouldn't happen this year.
Okay.
It'd be the next calendar year. So in order for the change to come, each of the three divisions, as we know, Division 1, 2, and 3. So think about that. I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of athletes across so many different things. Basketball, football, golf, lacrosse, soccer, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
So it could all help that. Swimming, all of these different things could help for sure. They would have to introduce and adopt some sort of legislation. Now, what that means, we don't know yet. But in the meantime, the CSMAS is going to the Board of Governors to see if cannabis taken can be paused right now at the NCAA championships while the action is being taken. So at least the pause means, hey, we can move forward without making it underneath our boards as okay. So it's a step in the right direction, I would think, at least.
Right.
At least. And one of the biggest reasons for the potential change stems from 2022, the Summit of Cannabis and College Athletes back in December, where it was the opinion that marijuana wasn't a performance-enhancing drug and that any harm or reduction of the policy should be implemented at the level of individual schools.
And that's tremendous for that to be recognized. We had Sha'Carri Richardson, who was disqualified because they had deemed marijuana a drug that you could not use as an athlete.
And she wasn't using it for performance enhancing at all. That wasn't even the mindset. The mindset was, I've got stress, I've got this, family issues. I'm trying to relax my mind, calm my body. Mm-hmm. And she got slapped on the other end.
Yeah. And I think what needs to happen is more education. It needs to be understood from all of these different institutions of higher learning, especially when they have budgets that can go into the hundreds of millions.
Yes.
That they can make an allocation, create a new department, create a new curriculum, and they can educate people in those areas. It should be done.
Well, as you said, there's grants available.
Yes.
So create these, like, again, giving credit, HBCUs, thank you. You guys are taking it to the next step. You guys, I hope, are going to be the ones that are really pushing and leading the way forward, but it should be done at all these schools.
Definitely. When I look at the HBCUs and I look at just the history of the incarcerations of Black and brown people, period, it should be noted that they never had any equity. Now that this industry is wide open, there should be more equity or retributions available, just because the setbacks that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have went through because of the crime bill that was put into place to persecute people for possessions. Totally.
Well, and again, going back to kind of what we said before, not only just what they've been charged with, what they've lost, because once they've served time, job opportunities, housing, relations with family members, so many things that they've lost because of these charges.
You're marred by society by a couple of different ways. Your criminal background, it can prevent you from getting a job. Mm-hmm. You could be a really good person, and you may need therapeutic remedies, and the plant is power of the plant has therapeutic and medicinal remedies. So why should you lose or be deprived opportunity to work, opportunities to educate yourself? Even on housing, those charges can prevent you from being able to live in certain places if you don't own. So there's some tremendous setbacks that you can endure. And that's why I feel that it should be more equity. And I'm glad that the HBCUs are taking all of the steps and the means to get that equity back to the people.
No, absolutely. Because, one thing I would say, and I don't know this for a fact, but because of another thing I'll explain to you, I think be the same. If you get charged with it, you might, for example, be using it properly, legally, but in that city that you're in currently, it is not considered legal. So you get a charge there. Mm-hmm. Well, if that charge now comes up on your record, they're not going to break it down and say, okay, well, you lived in Colorado where it was safe and legal, but you traveled to Missouri and that's where you got your charge. That's why that charge is. That's not all going to be listed. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be, say, charged with.
Right. Absolutely.
Which, for example, I found this out. Don't know if you've heard this one before. For example, let's give you this. You're out with a group of friends at night. You just left the bar. You're 45 minutes away from your house. Gas stations are not open. Anything like that's not open. You realize you're not going to make it to the house before you've got to go to the restroom. Okay, guess what? I'm in the parking lot. Nobody's here. I'm just going to go off into the corner and take care of that there. If an officer sees you, that is public exposure, and if charged with it, you're now going to have to list yourself under a sexual crime, even though nothing like that happened. Right. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is this same thing could happen with a charge of CBD. Yeah. You were prescribed it. You were legal in this city, but you went over here where it's not. They're not going to go, okay, well, it was okay here, but this is where it happened, so we'll go ahead and hire you. We'll go and do this. They're not going to do that because that's not how it's going to be listed.
Yeah. Same thing when you're talking about leaving the country.
Correct.
Going to Russia.
Right. China.
Any of that. Yes. And find out.
And that's why we bring these things up, because you've got to understand where you are going, not just where you are currently.
You have to know the law of the land. Ignorance of the law is not a
You have this now. Yeah. Now, granted, not everything you find in here is going to be accurate. Understood. But you can start your due diligence, your education.
Absolutely. All of the search engines from Google, Yahoo, AOL, MSN, There's quite a few search engines that's out there. You just got to have the one that works for you best.
Correct.
Sometimes you have to cross-analyze the information that you research and look up. You want to find definitely the similarities there in information that's being cited. Citable information kind of takes you to where you know that you're receiving the factual and actual information.
And then check multiple sources.
That's correct.
Because, this one might say this one might say that. At least you're beginning the educational process. Not going to say that it's going to be 100% accurate or proper. That's why a lot of times we go and look, and if we see something that, hey, it sounds good, but we need to do some more research, because I can't say it's a fact.
That's correct.
But the bright side is, with this CMAS, it's looking to help educate and inform NCAA members and schools about marijuana through a comprehensive communication education campaign. So they're even saying that, hey, we don't know everything, but we want to try to learn more,
right? Which
is vitally important.
Right. That's absolutely right.
But, we need this to happen at the federal level too, not just schools. Schools is a great start. Universities, and I think a lot, you said, a lot of it comes from the fact that age range are the ones that are more open and mindset of allowing it. It's that middle, I believe it's the middle range from 35, 40 to about 65, 70. That's still kind of like hold on. No. That's a gateway. That's an issue. Let's not do it.
Yeah.
That's what I see. I could be wrong, but that's how I see it myself personally.
Yeah.
So now, if this were to happen, this would be the second major change to the NCAA's marijuana policy in a short period of time, because back in February last year, the association decided to raise the amount of THC an athlete can have in their system before triggering a positive test.
Okay. That's different, because the thing about it is, what I like for everybody listening to understand, as an athlete, imagine you already have a pre-existing injury going into a game.
Right.
And some leagues will deem you as questionable, which means they don't know if you're going to play or not. Mm-hmm. It's all up here. If you can will yourself to play beyond those injuries, those pains, afflictions that you have, then it's a game day decision.
Right.
Okay. Now imagine prior to the game, you definitely have to use something to help you cope with the pain. Just having a strong mind is not enough for you to cope with the pain. So you may have to light up, you may have to consume, you may have to drink, not alcohol, but maybe drink
the CBD water, like we talked about.
The CBD water that can help soothe, calm, and relieve you of pain-related symptoms. Okay, so overall, for what this is being said about the NAACP, and I'm sorry,
NCAA.
My apologies.
That flight still got you. I got it.
Yeah, I'm still red. I'm talking about they still red.
So I called this morning to make sure you're up.
Yeah. So the most important thing is when you actually look at what they're trying to do here, for all of the athletes that's been disqualified or banned from playing, they have to make up for that. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that for the players who were banned, suspended, dismissed, it's bittersweet, but at least the youth moving forward, they were able to benefit from you pioneering through whatever happened to you at the time, wherever you were.
Well, there's something else I want you to think of for a minute, even beyond what you're saying. So let's look at this, and this is across all sports, not just football, basketball, baseball, could be track even. There is a high percentage of our athletes in these schools that, guess what, they're on scholarship. Their families don't have the resources for them to go to school. Even if they're not going to become professional, they're there to get a degree. Now, what happens if, and I'm not talking a major injury like a broken leg, but something minor like you're talking about, they need to be able to get out there, because if they don't, for whatever reason, depending on how the scholarship is set up, if they don't perform in this one, they could lose that scholarship the next season, the next time, the next whatever. Yeah. And this little thing could help get them over that small little minor injury that would allow them to continue to perform so that they don't lose this and now lose their chances of education and these issues. How important could that be? We're not even considering that for the most part when we talk about these things.
Right.
We've got so many athletes out there, and you hear the stories. I went to school and I was able to do this because of the scholarship. They weren't necessarily playing in the NFL or the MLB or any of that. They became a doctor or just, working a 9-to-5 somewhere, but that would not have been possible without this scholarship. And if they can't have the opportunity to use this, they may not even be able to have that scholarship.
I have to give you a testament just from my own story. I went to school as a bio pre-med major, and eventually going to my junior year in school, there were conflicts with my inorganic chemistry labs and football practice.
Right.
And football paid the ticket.
Correct.
So I ended up subsequently having to change my major.
Right.
To be able to keep my scholarship to continue to educate myself at no cost.
Mm-hmm.
Another unique circumstance that I was subjected to as an athlete was that I was in school during a period where I came in as a freshman under a successful coach. That successful coach left and went to another school.
And this was before transfer portals.
This is
Keep that in
way
mind.
before transfer portals. That is totally correct. So the assistant head coach became the head coach. The assistant head coach did not do as a great job.
So you kind of butted heads there.
So the assistant head coach got fired. What I had to do as a student athlete was be resilient and survive new coaches.
Right.
When you have new coaches come
New
in,
systems, new everything.
you got new systems where it's offensive, defense.
Right.
They have a mindset where if you did come from a losing team, guess what?
You're probably the problem.
We're getting rid of everybody. So I had to make myself a non-cuddable person.
Right. So what did you have to do mindset-wise then to make that happen?
The one thing I can say is that I made sure that I had the strongest physical presence than any football player could possibly have. I was the first one to practice, the last one to leave. I always did extra work after practice. I worked out twice a day. I variated the workout to where I wouldn't be totally exhausted and exhaust my muscles. But what I did was came up with a back and bicep workout. Then I might have shoulders, deltoids. And I broke it down into smaller groups so that way I can accentuate the workout and get the muscular gains that I need to be even stronger, to even be considered an Ironman. I got tested multiple times just because they thought I was using.
Right, because your body went from A to B. You're right.
So my durability and my endurance, I had to do all of the things that I needed to do to enhance it. So that way I did not find myself being cut. I had a large number of teammates that got cut from the team from one year to the next because we changed coaches. In my football career, I actually, in the 6 years that I was at my school, I had 5 different head coaches. 5. That's an NC. That's actually a Guinness Book of World Record.
That's right.
The thing about it, find out, just check and see who was a full scholarship athlete and had 5 different head coaches in a college career. I know I was the first one.
Right.
There might be a second one.
Could be by now because we know that we're in an instant gratitude society, and if you don't make it in a couple of years, they're ready to move on.
Well, the tough part is keeping the scholarship.
Correct.
Staying with the team is not a problem because when you got a coach to come in there, if you're a walk-on, if you're a guy that you don't have a scholarship, they don't have to worry about you. You're just an add-on.
Right.
But if you were a full scholarship guy with a new coach coming in, and you got to go through spring practice and be reevaluated, learn a new system, totally forget the system that you learned before, and then you do it the way that your coach prescribes it to you. That's the only way you can survive. And that's that mentally.
Right.
You gotta have a strong mind to endure that alone because you're sitting there like, man, you know, if you see some of your teammates and you find out about them losing their scholarship, your heart hurts for them at the same time. You're sitting there saying, like, man, oh gosh.
But then you also think, could I be next?
Yeah. I wouldn't allow myself to be next. To be honest with you, I had a very strong mind, a strong will. I was out there to be a gladiator, and I strive to be the best gladiator on the field. So I made myself non-cuttable.
Now, with that mindset and what you were thinking of, though, how much, because of what you've all talked about now, did you downplay a nagging injury because you didn't want to show either A, weakness, or B, missed time on the field?
I truly feel that caused me an opportunity to play in the NFL. My file was very, very thick of injuries that are documented that I never allowed myself to heal from.
Right.
So I played games with, bruised ribs. I've dislocated my shoulder before and went out and played the next game. I mean, I've had a number of games where I'm like, as a tight end going across the middle, and the quarterback throws the ball high because that's the only way he can throw it.
Right.
For it not to get picked off or tipped, and I get pulverized in my back, in my lower back, upper back, or middle back. And you gotta imagine that face mask in the middle of your back. That pain is tremendous. And you gotta get up, keep going. Those shoulder pads only provide you a certain amount, even with the back pads. When you stretch up all the way
Exposed.
up, your back is still exposed. Your lower back, your ilium, or your upper glutes are totally exposed. So you take the crown of the helmet or the face mask into the area, man, the immense pain that you're going to be in is just crazy. Imagine just ankle sprains. Ankle sprains are probably the most common issue in all sports.
Right. And maybe not hockey.
I mean, if you got a good trainer who is able to take you up very, very good and keep that ankle from rolling, then yeah, they even have ankle braces that they can add to your over the top of your socks, and then you get it taped over the top of it, or you may put that over the top of the tape. Same thing for the knee braces as well. So the pains that you're subjected to are tremendous, and then don't mess around and have a hip injury.
Right.
Hip injury is probably one of the worst injuries. That took Bo Jackson out. That totally ended his career.
Yep.
So any minor hip injury to a major hip injury can continue to this day. I still have hip pains to this day.
And when it rains and it's cold, it's even worse.
I'm just hoping that I don't have to have like a hip replacement, in the time to come. I try to keep an active lifestyle. I got a chance to run a bike and rode a bike on the beach, just to try to continue to work on just cardio, and then have this peace, after working a very, very strenuous event. BET, we had thousands of attendees, and people who were exceptional, people who are very arrogant.
Right.
So you have to stay poised and professional the entire time, and work those things. So you have to have some form of a regimen of balance. So for me, I got a can of CBD water just from being on my feet almost 16 hours a day, 12 to 16 hours a day, from loading all the way to load out, just managing people, situations, and equipment. So it's a tremendous thing. People have a lot of responsibilities on them, and you have to have some form of a retreat to get through it, get past it. So for anybody that needs, whether they're CBD gummies, to calm their spirit and maybe alleviate some aches and pains, by means, do the research on the company that you're actually buying from, and just make sure that they follow all of the safe protocols and make sure you're safe as well.
Well, that's something I was thinking too, is might remember more than I do, but what was it? Late 80s, Holiday Bowl, BYU. Ty Detmer played with 2 separated shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't coming out of that game. Yes, it was I think his last college game. That's kind of the point of the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
This guy who had 2 separated shoulders.
Yeah. And he laid it on the line, and it was a detriment to his total career. I don't think he ever totally recovered from that. He did get drafted, but he was a shell of himself. And I think that it's really important to give yourself the longevity, the ability to last beyond the moment. If I can go back, and I'm gonna give you, I'm not gonna call out my coach.
One of the 5.
One of my coaches, he was a position coach, and he always asked the question, "Are you hurt?
Right?
Or are you hurting?"
Yeah.
No,
you just hurt or hurting.
It was I don't want to say mind F.
Right, but it was. He was spinning on your mind.
Are you hurt? Or are you hurting?
Right.
And there's a difference between the two, because he would never say injured.
Because
yes, you are injured.
Yes, you are.
You're hurting.
Correct.
So he eliminated that and asked the question, "Are you hurt? Are you hurting?" And that was always psychological.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hurting, you still can go.
Right.
But if you're injured, you can't go.
Right.
We all hurt. We all feel a little bit of pain. And that was his way of just getting into your mind.
Yeah.
Come on, man. But what you do is you try to shrug it off and you just keep going. But what it did was, for the athletes of the old, it impacted the long-term durability.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I could say is that in my time, I was able to meet people that had vast amount of wisdom. I was fortunate to meet the late, great Jim Brown. And I used to be at Grady High School, where a number of NFL players were practicing during the summertime. I had a chance to meet him and talk to him, and he advised me then to take care of my body. And if I'm hurt, do not play. And I think that's one of the reasons why he actually left football very, very early, because he was already in the midst amount of pain. Mm-hmm. And when you seen Jim Brown, he had this cool strut to his walk, but that walk had pain in it too. But it was real cool and real graceful. But at the same time, I can only imagine they pay you all that money, but it does nothing for them.
Well, not just that, you didn't have the allocations like they do today in your pension, in your insurance after you play. What you made is what you made. Unless you had endorsement deals when you left, you weren't getting more money.
I'm going to be honest with you. The fast life, when you go from 0 to 100, when you go from broke to a lot of money, I don't want to call it rich because they end up broke again.
Correct.
So you were never rich. But the same thing, how you use in modesty so you don't overdose, is the same way how you should spend your money in modesty. If you don't spend it in modesty, you'll be doing things that's totally ill-advised. I have had coaches who were former NFL players who were drug users.
Oh, yeah.
They abused drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And it totally affected their money. And they had to go get a job. And they've gotten a job in coaching to continue to at least earn a living. Because when you lose living and lifestyle, it's mentally, that's a blow.
Absolutely.
So, so for everybody out there, one of the things that I suggest is living in a level of modesty, so that way you can maintain a balance. When you lose balance and you fall, that fall from grace could be detrimental. It could be totally catastrophic to your mental well-being, your way of life, your future outlook. So, so what I say to everybody is, don't look at what other people are doing. Do what God gave you, not only your heart, your mind, your soul. You're doing what you love what you do. And if you don't know and don't understand, keep being a student of life. Keep researching what you need to do, so that way it'll literally fall right into your lap. God will put it right here, and you'll be able to do and say the things that is on your heart and that's on your mind first and foremost. That is where most people's source of happiness is going to come from. And when you're doing stuff for just the money and you're not happy, guess what? Money never will fix any problems that you have just because you have the money. You want to be happy in anything that you do. And I think that for what's going on in society, we look and see what other people are doing and we want to emulate them. But it can, it can contribute to failure in so many different ways. But what we want to make sure that you do is if you maintain that balance, then, failures do come in life, more in some, less in others. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, the lessons learned in life, if it was meant for you to learn them, it will make you a more tremendous person. You may be more successful at a later age than earlier. So you gotta keep that in mind as well. So I can't emphasize or stress balance enough. And then along with the decisions that you have to make, decisions are really, really tough.
Well, the thing is, too, I was thinking about this for just a second. We'll go back to a little bit on the NCAA. We see these people, these athletes, these artists, whoever they are, they got what they consider an entourage around them. Mm-hmm. Well, when that money's gone, they fall alone. I'd say 99% of the time. These people don't go with them and go back to the struggles. They move on.
Oh, yeah.
And
when the gravy train is over with, they get off the train.
Yep, exactly.
That's basically what it is. If you flying PJ and ain't no money for the PJ, they ain't there. They gone.
They're out.
But eventually, sometimes you come in contact with a person that'll give you just a little bit of a nudge or just tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, man, that's another way to do this.
Right.
So, I just want to say for all of the people that find themselves in that situation, you just got to be strong, be resilient, and a lot more mindful. We all want to show off and feel good, feel great, but I totally feel modesty is the best way.
Absolutely. So a couple of things here we wanted to hit on. I got a couple of closing things there, but they changed the way the punishment for the athletes who test positive. Test used to automatically result in missing 50% of the regular season. 50%.
Yeah.
So football, playoffs, yes, we got more now, but you know how else can go from 10, 11 games down to 4 or 5? What's going to happen to your scholarships? What's going to happen to your potentials? All those things. Now, the equivalent of one season of regular season, now the athletes have to undergo the school's management, pain, and education for one positive test. So we're not sure exactly how many, but they're saying a second one would require 25% of the regular season. So that's a start, but we're still too much of a punishment for something that's not enhancement.
That's true.
So not at all. Now, a couple of minutes left. This is the end of Men's Mental Health Month. Two things I wanted to mention on that I saw this week. One, I don't know if you've heard this artist. I'll give you some. There's an individual out there, Dax, which I've really started to like his music. He does a lot of stuff when it talks about whether it be relationships, men's mental health, alcohol abuse, you name it. But he said something the other day that was interesting to me. He goes, we don't look for the old song. We look for the memories that it carries because music takes us back to that place. It takes us back to a memory. Not always good, though, but it takes us back to the memory. Another thing, too, is how about this one? When you're happy, you enjoy the music, but when you're sad, you understand the lyrics. You ever thought about that?
That's deep.
How many times do we hear a song, but then when we're in that moment of feeling upset, then we actually understand what the artist was saying?
Yeah.
But what I wanted to close on the men's mental health thing is, and this really hit me. We're always talking about how men can't share, shouldn't talk about their feelings, right? In the Bible, numerology is big, whether it be 3, 7, 40, all these different numbers. It's mentioned over and over and over throughout the Bible. Well, guess what? 3 different occasions. It talks about Jesus wept. So if Jesus wept, why can't we?
I can tell you that life is very, very passionate.
And fragile.
And fragile.
Way too fragile.
And I can truly say that some of the heartfelt things in life, I cry. I shed a tear for. Sometimes I cry, I hurt for humanity a lot because humanity is hurting all around me. And I wish there's more that I could possibly do. So, there's a lot of things in life where you know, as a family member, a friend, they're going through things. I've had friends who have lost family members. One lost his son last week. Another one lost his mother last week.
Right.
So, you know, when you look at those things, and I knew them both. And my friend who is like a brother that lost his mother, oh my gosh, she was just a wonderful woman.
And that was his rock. That was his everything.
Yeah. And she, anytime that I went around, her spirit was so phenomenal, so nice, so sweet.
You felt part of the family at home.
Yeah, I always felt like family. She always was trying to feed me, give me something to drink. You doing okay? Come in here, sit down, and talk. You know, and it was just
showed compassion when it wasn't just the greeting at the restaurant. How are you today?
Yeah.
They don't care. That's just the standard greeting.
Yeah,
That's not what she meant.
No.
She asked, "How? No, I want to know."
She give you a hug.
Tell me.
Hey, come on in. You know, just so great spirited, and it's just unreal. To think that she's not here anymore, and we think about all of the people who are no longer in this world, and you know, for whatever reason, you know, she died of natural causes, but any other tragedies and stuff like that they're untimely.
Yeah.
And you know, we want to do everything we can to just be good people, but you know, we remember them, we remember the good things about them, and we take those good things and keep moving forward.
Yep. Absolutely. And like you said, yes, June was Men's Mental Health Month, but it's not a month. It's a year thing. It's a daily thing. It's an hourly thing.
Mental health is
nobody's going to be up here all the time.
Yeah.
But nobody needs to be down here all the time either.
Yeah. Up and down.
Oh, I've been through it last week. You saw that.
Absolutely.
And we're going to.
Yeah. That's what everybody have to understand in this world, in this life, that you got your good and your bad, and you're ugly.
No moment lasts forever, even though that moment feels like it's not going to recover.
Got to be mindful of a lot of things and persistent to keep things in a perspective.
Right.
If you're persistent, you protect things as well. When you're not persistent and you procrastinate, things can go awry, things can change. One of the most motivating things I can tell you is stay in front of change so you don't have to go through change.
Right. So with that, we've come through another close, and next month is July. We're in the 7th month of the year. Woo! So hopefully we'll try to get our guest that we're going to have today on with us next week. We'll have more information. Guys, take care of yourself this week. Reach out to others. Check on your friends, your neighbors. You don't know how far one kind word can go, even if you don't know that individual. So any other closing thoughts where they can connect with you as we close out this hour?
Follow me, Big Boy Sam with 2 M's on IG. Follow me, send me my friend on LinkedIn. Definitely thank you for tuning in today. We just want to continue to provide information that can keep you going, things that are relevant to change for the cannabis and CBD industry. We want to keep pushing forward to provide more mental health tips and also getting power to the plant out to the people.
Absolutely. Myself, you can reach out to me either on Instagram or Twitter, DJNQ75, and of course our Matcha page where we put these stories up, talk about it. You guys got any questions, show ideas, thoughts? Be happy to look into it, see what we can do for you. Everybody stay blessed. Teach one this week, reach out to one, and we will see you guys next Wednesday.
Peace.